Leave before cops! The words cracked across the hotel lobby like a gavel. They weren't whispered. They weren't hidden. They were thrown loud enough to rattle the chandelier above. Every head turned. Guests froze mid-step, marble floors catching the echo. Phones lifted in silent choreography, screens glowing, ready to capture humiliation. At the center stood two women. One, a manager in a navy blazer, jaw tight, finger stabbing the air as if pointing out a trespasser. The other, calm and white, immovable, silent, eyes locked not on the finger but on the space beyond it, as though she had already measured this scene 100 times before. Beside her, a uniformed guard shifted uneasily, palm brushing against her sleeve, waiting for the order to remove her. His hesitation spoke louder than his presence. The manager didn't wait. "You don't belong here. Not in this lobby. Not in this hotel." Gasps rippled. A child clutched her mother's coat. A bellhop froze with luggage midair. A young concierge bit her lip, caught between duty and doubt. And still she didn't flinch. She held a black folder close, spine straight, chin steady. If silence was a weapon, she wielded it like steel. One guest muttered, "She gave her ID. Why are they doing this?" Another phone raised high whispered, "This is going online." The air thickened. The manager leaned closer, voice sharper. "Walk out now, or I'll call the police myself." The guard's grip tightened. He looked ready to act, ready to escort. But the woman in white finally moved. Just a tilt of the head, just enough for the entire room to feel the shift. Her lips parted calm, deliberate. "I have a reservation. Penthouse suite. Carter." No raised tone. No plea. Just fact, dropped into the marble silence like a stone in still water. The manager scoffed. "Fake card, fake name. We've seen this scam before." Murmurs swelled. Some nodded in disbelief. Others frowned, unsettled. The room wasn't quiet anymore. It was charged, polarized, waiting. She stood steady. In her stillness, there was weight. A history carried without words. A patience that cut sharper than rage. And just as the manager barked again, "Security, remove her!" a hush fell, that eerie kind before a storm breaks. Because everyone watching knew this woman was not what she seemed. The guard shifted forward, palm now firmer on her sleeve. Not rough yet, but decisive. He was following orders. The manager's voice sliced again, sharper than glass. "Escort her out. She's stalling." Every syllable carried the weight of authority misused. Guests recoiled. One man whispered, "She hasn't even raised her voice." Another, filming, muttered, "This looks bad, really bad." The woman in white didn't move. Not a flinch, not a step. Instead, she lifted her folder slightly higher against her chest, as though shielding not herself but the truth. The manager sneered. "Penthouse suite. People like you don't book penthouse suites. Not here." The words landed heavy. Gasps followed. A teenager near the check-in desk shook his head, caught it on video, and whispered to his friend, "She really said that out loud." Still calm, the woman spoke low, unhurried. "Run my name." "Oh." The manager laughed, a brittle sound echoing off marble. "You're not in the system. You're a con, and in 2 minutes the police will be here." She turned to the guard. "You want to put hands on me? Think carefully, because every phone in this lobby is recording." And indeed, more hands rose. Screens dotted the air like tiny spotlights. The lobby wasn't private anymore, it was a stage, and every second of prejudice was being documented. The guard hesitated. He had seen tense removals before, but never with this many eyes. His grip slackened, just slightly. The manager noticed and snapped, louder, "Don't just stand there, do your job." In the far corner, a concierge no older than 23 finally spoke up. Her voice trembled, but it carried. "I saw her name. Carter. The reservation's real." The room stilled. Phones caught her words, replaying instantly. The manager spun on her, fury bright. "Stay out of this or you're fired." But the seed had been planted. Guests began whispering, some nodding at the young woman's courage. A ripple of doubt moved through the lobby. The woman in white remained steady, breathing slow, eyes locked on the manager as if she'd known all along the crowd would shift. Because it wasn't just her against authority anymore. It was her, and everyone watching. The manager's smile sharpened, cold and deliberate. "You think a line in the system makes you legitimate? Please. Anyone can fake that, but you," she scanned the woman in white from head to toe, pausing with a sneer, "don't look like someone who belongs in our penthouse. Not dressed like this. Gasps broke like glass shattering across the lobby. A woman near the elevator raised her phone higher, whispering, "Did she just say that? Out loud?" The guard stepped in closer now, his shadow cutting across the polished floor. His voice dropped low, rehearsed. "Ma'am, you need to leave. We can do this easy or hard." Every camera caught his hand hovering above her arm, the tension in that hovering thick enough to choke. Still, the woman in white didn't flinch. Her eyes, calm but unwavering, lifted to meet his. "Touch me, and it won't be your shift that ends. It'll be your career." A hush snapped through the crowd. Someone whispered, "She's not bluffing." The manager barked again, louder, desperate to regain control. "She's a fraud. I'm locking her ID until the bank verifies it." She turned, grabbed the slim black card from the counter, and slid it into a brushed steel, safe with exaggerated flair. The metallic click echoed like a verdict. "Company property now," she declared, smug. "You're done here." The young concierge who had spoken before paled, voice breaking. "That's theft. Her reservation is valid." "Quiet," the manager snapped, slamming the safe door shut. Gasps rippled again. Phones didn't just record, they zoomed in, caught the slam, caught the arrogance. The lobby was alive now, pulsing with disbelief. Near the couches, a guest muttered, "This is a lawsuit waiting to happen." Another added, "Why do they think they can just take her card?" The woman in white didn't argue. Instead, she raised her phone to her ear. Her tone stayed even, almost too quiet for the chaos around her. "Log this moment. Every word, every action. Start the record now. End." On the other end, a faint voice replied, professional, calm, ready. The manager laughed, mistaking composure for weakness. "Call whoever you want. Nobody's saving you." But the room didn't laugh with her. The air was shifting. Guests were no longer passive. A barrier was forming, invisible yet undeniable, between injustice and truth. And at the center of it all stood the woman in white, silent, steady, and unshaken. The safe door's metallic thud was still hanging in the air when the first voice from the crowd broke the silence. "This is insane," a man in a navy blazer muttered, phone held chest, high. She gave her name, her card. They just stole it. Beside him, a young woman whispered into her live stream, "We're at the Horizon Grand in Seattle, and this is happening live." Her chat feed exploded. "What? Name and shame them. This is disgusting." The manager straightened, feeding on her own authority. "You see?" she crowed, gesturing toward the safe. "Scam artists always fold when the card is locked. It's over." But the woman in white didn't fold. She didn't move. She simply let the words hang, her silence louder than the manager's entire performance. The guard shifted again, uneasy now. He glanced at the growing sea of raised phones, each one a silent witness. His hand twitched, but he didn't reach for her. Not yet. The young concierge took a breath, tried again. "I saw her reservation this morning. It was valid." Her voice trembled, but it carried. Phone swiveled toward her, capturing courage raw and fragile. The manager snapped like a whip. "Say one more word and you're gone too." The girl froze, lips pressed tight, eyes glistening. But the seed had already spread. Guests whispered, "Louder now." She saw it. She confirmed it. Why are they ignoring her? The lobby was no longer a stage, it was a trial. Every bystander a juror. Every phone a recorder. The manager turned back to the woman in white, voice dripping with venom. "You're wasting everyone's time. Walk out now before we make you." The guard inhaled, readying himself. But again still, she remained unmoved. Her phone pressed to her ear, her voice calm enough to chill. "Timestamp this moment." The exact words, "Walk out before we make you. Log it." The faint voice on the line responded steady, efficient. "Logged. Systems recording." A guest near the check-in desk whispered to his wife. "She sounds like she's done this before." His wife nodded slowly, phone camera steady. The manager sneered, mistaking calm for submission. "You think anyone cares who you call? Nobody's coming." But the crowd was shifting, the narrative slipping. Because the more she sneered, the more the woman in white's silence felt like gravity pulling the room away from arrogance, into truth. And when a mother near the elevators whispered, "She hasn't even raised her voice," dozens of others nodded, their agreement caught in the glow of their screens. The pressure was no longer on the woman in white. It was on those who tried to erase her. It started with one voice. From the corner, a man in his 30s laptop bag slung across his shoulder called out, "She hasn't even resisted. You're the ones escalating." Every phone turned toward him. His words spread, repeated in whispers like sparks in dry grass. Then another voice, a travel blogger, live on TikTok, lifted above the murmur. "They just locked her card in a safe. This is theft. You're watching it live, people." Hearts and comments flooded her screen faster than she could read. The manager stiffened, but she doubled down. "She's not a guest. She's a fraud. And anyone filming is interfering with hotel security protocol." But the threat didn't land, because the crowd had shifted. A mother with a stroller edged forward. Her voice shook, but it was clear. "I don't care what protocol you claim." She checked in. "I heard her say her name. I saw you take her card." The guard froze. His orders were clear, but so were the eyes staring back at him, dozens of them, each phone a mirror reflecting accountability. The young concierge gathered courage from the mother's words. "She's telling the truth," she said louder now. "The system flagged her as VIP this morning. I saw it with my own eyes." Gasps rippled. Cameras zoomed. Someone whispered, "VIP? Did she just say VIP?" The manager's face blanched, then hardened. "You don't know what you saw. Stay out of it." But it was too late. The lobby was alive, pulsing with outrage. A guest in a Navy suit raised his phone like evidence. "I've been filming since the beginning. You said people like you don't belong here. It's on record." And the weight of those words, "people like you," settled like a storm cloud. Heavy, unforgiving. The woman in white finally shifted, just her gaze slow, deliberate, sweeping across the lobby, meeting eyes one by one. She hadn't asked for allies, but they had chosen her, and the manager felt it, her grip on authority slipping, unraveling in real time. She slammed her hand on the desk, desperate. "Security! Remove her now or you'll be fired too." But the guard hesitated. Phones were everywhere. Witnesses were everywhere. And for the first time, the weight wasn't on the woman in white, it was on him. The lobby had chosen its side. The lobby had become a courtroom, every marble tile an echo chamber of judgment. Phones were up, eyes unblinking, voices ready. The manager's face flushed crimson. Her voice rose, cracking with fury. "She's a liar, a scammer, probably stole that card. People like her think they can trick the system. Not today." Gasps cut through the air. A teenager whispered to his mom, "She really said people like her again." The mom shook her head, disbelief etched across her face as her phone kept recording. The woman in white didn't move. She let the words hang, their venom heavy enough to condemn the speaker, not the target. The manager wasn't finished. She leaned over the desk, snarling, "You don't belong in a place like this. Not in a penthouse. Not in this lobby. You're nothing but a fraud." Oh. Each sentence was louder, each insult sharper, as if volume could drown the truth. The guard's shoulders stiffened. His hand hovered again over her arm, but the hesitation was longer this time. He muttered under his breath, "This doesn't feel right." The manager whipped around to him. "Do it! Grab her! Now!" But before he could move, a guest shouted from the back, "She hasn't done a thing. You're harassing her." The words carried. Applause rippled, hesitant at first, then bolder. The room wasn't just watching anymore. It was resisting. The manager's eyes flicked toward the safe, then back to the woman in white. Rage twisted her expression. She grabbed the landline on the desk and barked into it. "Security breach in the lobby. Suspected fraud. High risk. Send police immediately." The announcement slammed into the room like a gavel. The young concierge gasped, her voice breaking, "That's a false report. She has a reservation." But the manager slammed the phone down, smirking as if she'd sealed her victory. "Let's see how long your little act lasts when the cops arrive." The tension spiked. Guests murmured, horrified. A man in a business suit shook his head. "She just lied to the police. That's a crime." And still the woman in white stood calm, unshaken. She lifted her phone again, voice quiet but cutting. "Timestamp this. Log the false report. Every word." The faint voice on the line answered, "Confirmed. Logged. Escalated to compliance." The manager laughed bitterly. "Compliance? Who do you think you are? Nobody's saving you now." But the truth was clear to everyone watching. The louder she yelled, the more fragile her power became. And the woman in white, silent, steady, wasn't losing ground. She was gaining it. The moment the receiver clattered back into its cradle, the guard stepped closer, jaw clenched. His hand pressed harder this time against her sleeve, not tentative, not hovering. A signal that removal was seconds away. Gasps tore through the lobby. One woman shouted, "Don't touch her!" Another voice rose, trembling but firm. "She hasn't broken any law." Phones caught everything angles from the elevators, the check-in line, the couches by the wall. The lobby wasn't a private room anymore. It was a theater of injustice. The manager seized the moment, voice booming. "See? She won't even defend herself, because she can't. She's a thief pretending to be someone important. Look at her, no jewelry, no designer bag, just a cheap suit. You really think she belongs in a penthouse?" Her words dripped like acid, each insult crafted to strip dignity. The guard's fingers twitched, ready to grip her arm. But before he could close the distance, the woman in white lifted her gaze, calm, measured, steel beneath silence. "Touch me again," she said softly, "and you'll answer for it in court." The words struck sharper than a shout. The guard froze mid-motion, hands suspended in the air like a weapon suddenly useless. The crowd erupted. "She warned you!" one man barked. "This is wrong!" another cried. But the manager only leaned in, doubling down, feeding her fury. "She's not a guest. She's a con artist. She forged her reservation. She's trespassing, and when police arrive, she'll be dragged out in cuffs." The statement landed heavy, deliberate. The concierge gasped, covering her mouth. Guests shook their heads in disbelief. Phones zoomed in on the manager's face, capturing every syllable. The woman in white didn't flinch. Instead, she lifted her phone again, voice steady, almost whispering. "Log that. Exact words. Dragged out in cuffs. Logged," came the calm reply in her ear. The manager smirked, mistaking composure for weakness. "You can log all you want. By the time the police arrive, you'll be nothing but another fraud caught on camera." But the irony was already clear to the room. The only fraud unfolding was the abuse of power, performed in front of dozens of witnesses. The crowd wasn't just watching anymore. It was seething. And the woman in white, still silent, still steady, wasn't the one losing control. The manager was. The guard's hand hovered, trembling now with hesitation, when the woman in white finally moved. Not to fight, not to resist, just a simple, deliberate gesture. She raised her phone, pressed one button, and lifted it to her ear. Her voice was low, but it carried. "Activate protocol. Begin documentation. Full escalation." The words slid across the marble like ice. The lobby hushed. Even the guard leaned back, uncertain. Guests leaned closer, whispering. "Protocol? Did you hear that?" She said, "Escalation? What does that mean?" On the other end of the line, a calm, professional voice replied instantly. "Confirmed. System logging every incident. All footage syncing live. Do you want compliance board patched in?" The woman's answer was quiet, steady. "Yes, real time." The manager laughed, high and brittle, mistaking calm for bluff. "Protocol. Compliance? Who do you think you're fooling? You're nothing here. You're standing in my lobby on borrowed time." But no one laughed with her. Phones caught her words, spreading like wildfire. The woman in white closed her eyes briefly, then opened them, gaze steady as stone. Timestamp her statement, "My lobby." The assistant's voice replied, "Logged. Cross-checking ownership records now." A ripple moved through the crowd. Guests exchanged looks. A young man whispered, "Ownership? Wait, what?" The manager slammed her palm against the desk, trying to seize control. "Stop filming! Everyone stop! This is hotel policy!" But the room ignored her. A dozen phones stayed up, unwavering, their little red dots burning holes in her authority. The woman in white didn't need to raise her tone. She simply turned, eyes sweeping the room. "No cameras," she said softly, directing it at the closest guest. "Use your words, not your lenses." The man holding the phone lowered it, stunned. "She wants us to speak up, not film." Murmurs rose louder now, not in pixels, but in voices. "This is discrimination. She has every right to be here. This isn't policy, this is prejudice." The weight shifted. The lobby no longer felt like a trap. It felt like a gathering storm turning against the manager. And at the center stood the woman in white, silent, composed yet unmistakably in control. The lobby hummed with voices, a chorus of disbelief and rising anger. The manager's face twitched, trapped between fear and defiance. She barked louder, desperate. "She's nothing. Just another scammer dressed up to play rich. And when the police walk through that door, you'll all see I was right." But the crowd didn't nod this time. They shook their heads. They whispered, "She's too calm. She knows something." The woman in white lowered her phone slowly, her assistant's voice still faint in her ear. "Ownership records verified. Escalation complete. Standing by for your authorization." She took a breath, not rushed, not theatrical. Just one deep inhale, grounding herself. Then she stepped forward, out of the guard's shadow, into the full light of the chandelier. Her voice, calm but cutting, sliced through the tension. "You accused me of fraud. You locked my card away. You told me I don't belong." "I?" Every eye locked on her. Every phone caught the moment. "But you made one mistake." She paused, letting silence sharpen the blade. "You said this was your lobby." Gasps fluttered like wind through leaves. The manager stiffened, eyes narrowing. "So what? It Island." The woman in white's gaze didn't waver. "Number it isn't." She lifted her chin, steady, and spoke the words that would shatter the room. "My name is Aisha Carter, CEO of Horizon Group, owner of this hotel." The air cracked. Silence thick. Absolute hung for a beat, then broke in a collective gasp. Guests turned to each other, mouths open. The young concierge's hand flew to her lips. The mother with the stroller whispered, "Oh my God." Phones shook as people zoomed in, capturing her face, her words, the revelation that flipped the entire narrative upside down. The manager blinked hard, color draining from her face. That's impossible." But the crowd was already murmuring, "Carter. The name on the building. Horizon Group. She's the one." The woman didn't raise her tone. She didn't need to. Her calm now had gravity. "You tried to throw out the woman who signs your paycheck." The lobby erupted. Some gasped. Some clapped. Some shouted outright, "She's the owner." "You messed up. This is unbelievable." The manager staggered back, suddenly small behind the desk that no longer felt like protection. The guard's hand dropped entirely, retreating to his side. And the woman in white, no longer anonymous, no longer silent, stood revealed. Not a trespassee, not a fraud. The owner. The words hung in the air like a verdict no one could appeal. CEO, owner, Carter. The crowd erupted, voices overlapping in a tidal wave. "She owns this place. You tried to throw out the boss." This is insane record everything. Phones shook with adrenaline, screens filling with comments, live reactions already spiraling beyond the walls of the hotel. The manager stumbled back a step, her blazer suddenly too tight, her authority crumbling. This is a trick," she stammered. She forged, she hacked, but the concierge cut in, voice trembling yet firm. "Number I saw it this morning. Carter. Penthouse suite. Owner-level clearance." The lobby gasped again. The confirmation was undeniable. The guard, who only minutes before had pressed his hand against her sleeve, now dropped his eyes, ashamed. He muttered under his breath, "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." The manager spun on him, frantic. "Don't stand there, do something." But he didn't move. His silence was louder than any refusal. Guests stepped closer, no longer just observers. A businessman raised his phone higher. "The world is watching this. You just tried to humiliate the owner of the hotel." The mother with the stroller spoke again, sharper this time. She never raised her voice. "You did? And now everyone knows." Applause broke sporadic at first, then swelling as more guests joined in. A chorus of approval, a wave of vindication. The manager's face drained of color. Her voice cracked. You can't just, you don't." But the words collapsed before they formed. Authority had bled from her completely. The woman in white, Aisha Carter, stood still, centered in the storm she hadn't started but now commanded. Her eyes swept the lobby, meeting witness after witness, each gaze another nail in the coffin of false power. The manager backed toward the safe, palms trembling. This is a misunderstanding," she muttered weakly. But no one believed it. Not anymore. Because the truth wasn't hidden. It was standing in front of them in a white suit, steady as stone, unmoved by the chaos. And for the first time, the question wasn't whether she belonged. It was whether those who tried to erase her would survive what came next. The lobby pulsed with a new rhythm applause, murmurs, the electric buzz of justice finally tipping. But Aisha Carter didn't bask in it. She moved with precision, like a judge delivering sentence. Her phone lifted once more. Her tone? Flat, razor sharp. "Execute termination. Immediate removal of staff access. Gregory Vance, Lauren Hayes, Kevin Patel, lock their badges, freeze credentials. Is that? The assistant's voice crackled back, calm, efficient. Processing now. Confirmed badges disabled. Access revoked across all systems. The words landed like thunder. Behind the desk, Gregory, the manager who only minutes ago shouted her out of her own lobby, reached for his ID badge. He swiped it across the reader. A sharp beep echoed, red light, blinking. Denied. He tried again, frantic. Another red denial. Gasps erupted. Guests leaned in, phones capturing every second. Lauren, the clerk with the tight smile, fumbled for her keycard. Same red light. Same rejection. Kevin froze, his badge still in hand, realizing before he even tried, his face drained of color. The concierge whispered, stunned, "It's real. She just shut them out." The manager's voice cracked, desperate now. "You can't do this. You can't just—" But Aisha's gaze cut him off, colder than steel. "I don't need to shout. I don't need to threaten. You wrote your own termination, every insult, every false report, every stolen card, logged, permanent." The applause swelled again, louder, sharper. Guests clapped. Some cheered outright. A man by the elevators called out, "That's justice." The staff tried one last time to speak, voices overlapping. It was a mistake. She forged it. We thought, but Aisha raised one hand. Not to silence them, to end them. You knew what you were doing, and now you're finished. Ugh. The lobby was alive, phones shaking, hearts pounding, justice unfolding in real time. And the woman they tried to erase? She hadn't raised her voice once. The red denial light still blinked on the card reader, its rhythm like a metronome marking the end of an era. Gregory's hand trembled as he pulled his badge away, staring at it as if it had betrayed him. Lauren leaned against the desk, pale, whispering to herself. Kevin sank into silence, eyes fixed on the marble floor. The applause quieted, but the energy didn't fade. It shifted into awe, into respect, into something no manager's command could manufacture. Aisha Carter stood at the center, white suit gleaming under the chandelier, calm, unshaken. The room belonged to her again, not because she demanded it, but because she embodied it. She let the silence stretch, the weight of consequence hanging in the air. Then, her voice, steady, deliberate, "You tried to erase me, not with fists, but with assumptions. Not with truth, but with prejudice. And you thought silence meant weakness." She paused. The crowd leaned in, waiting. Phones zoomed closer. "You mistook silence for submission. That was your last mistake." The words dropped like a hammer. Guests erupted, some clapping, some shouting in triumph. The young concierge covered her mouth, tears brimming, then straightened her spine, pride flickering in her eyes. Gregory opened his mouth, but nothing came out. For the first time, he had no authority left to wield. Aisha turned, her gaze sweeping the room, not at her staff, not at the broken faces behind the desk, but at the witnesses who had stood, filmed, and spoken up. "You don't need a camera to make justice real," she said, her voice softer now, but no less powerful. "I am the ending of this story, and so are you, every time you refuse to stay silent." Phones shook. Applause thundered. The lobby, once a stage for humiliation, had become a monument to dignity. She closed her folder, tucked her phone away, and walked past the frozen staff toward the elevators. Each step was slow, deliberate, like punctuation at the end of a verdict. As the elevator doors slid open, someone shouted from the crowd, "Miss Carter, we're with you." She didn't turn. She didn't need to. Her silence was the answer. The doors closed, the applause echoing upward, carrying with it the lesson no badge, no smirk, no prejudice could erase. Justice hadn't been shouted into existence. It had been delivered.